So while a lot of black community is upset with Nicki Minaj, and rightfully so, about her opinions, which are really opinions, they're just opinions. And I'm not that crazy about, I've never really purchased any of her music, really, to be honest with you. And there's been some other people in the black community specifically who have built their careers on black culture and built themselves up to a high status and turned their backs on the very people who have supported them throughout their career. I can understand a lot of people's frustration and anger, but I think we should pay also attention to the countries that are making calls to cancel all the visas for Americans. So Niger, they also slammed the door on Americans and cancel all U.S. visas after Trump, he expands his travel ban. And I think this is really important to know these things too, as well as we're aware of the people who are not faithful to their consumers and the people who are fans. You should always look at, before I go into these articles, you should always look at entertainers as people. They're not gods. They're not angels. They're not, some kind of special being that was sent here with some type of talent that is here to please everyone. So you have to also be aware that some of these entertainers are not always who you perceive them to be. And you know how to discern people who have good hearts and those who are just in their careers only just to be famous and popular, and they're just for the money and they don't really care about the people who have supported them throughout their career. You should learn how to decipher those individuals, because it says people by the fruits that they bear. And I always look at it like this. When you see people who they don't come back to their communities and donate, they don't help build schools, they don't help build infrastructure, they don't help build in their rebuilding communities, or if they see something happening in a community that has supported them, they don't give back to those people or help those people in some type of way to show their appreciation for the support that they've gained over the years. Then if they're only about buying cars and clothes and mansions and propping themselves up, and they want you to kind of prop them up, those are not people that you want to really too much support. And you see them in a bunch of commercials. They're just making money. They become a brand. They're just about the money. And so a lot of us have been telling you, some of the young people and some of the older people who thought that some of these people were good people or good natured, or maybe because they were talented, or maybe they liked a couple of songs that they put out, that these people do not even support the people who supported them. And so you have to remember that you have to start now thinking about, okay, we'll pick and choose who earns the support. Because at the same time, people can be talented, but if they're chauvinistic, or they have other traits that are not in alignment with are egotistical, or they have maybe hate in their heart, or maybe they perceive to be racist, or they distance themselves from people, or they have other political agendas, or they involve themselves in politics and end up on the wrong side of history, those are people you might not want to be really in support of. But over the weekend, I was looking at these articles and I thought it was really troubling to see that with Donald Trump, it says he's expanding these travel bans, and it's inspired by his first term in the White House to 20 more countries, as well as the Palestinian government. And the Niger, here it says a growing diplomatic standoff is unfolding after one country announced that it will cancel all visas for Americans in response to Trump's travel bans. So I think these are really important situations, and it could open the floodgates for a possible war. If not, we're already in it. And we're just like easing off into, like, I've seen articles saying we're sleepwalking into World War III. I've also seen the internet is not catching up with what's going on, or either they've put it in a situation where it doesn't really recognize what's happening just yet until we're in the middle of all of it. And by that time, it might be too late. But this I thought was pretty alarming because, you know, what do people do when they have visas? Because some people travel abroad because they work, they teach, they might do trade or business. This is going to interrupt a lot of those things. And it's very well also going to make new enemies to the U.S. if they weren't already. And so, do we need that? Probably not. And I'm going to add this in here. It reminds me of 9/11. You know, everybody was rallying together, showing their support and patriotism, and then they were all in support of Americans not getting killed on those planes. But we're looked at as casualties. We're looked at as people that are here, and if you get hurt, you just get hurt. But you don't know. Think about it. You got a couple of men, they come here to the US, learn how to fly on flight simulators, and then they get in planes, American planes, or planes with Americans in it, and they hold the planes hostage with box cutters. Why would somebody want to do that? Has anybody asked the question why? So a lot of things that have been happening, you know, like the Palestinian issues and Israel and Gaza. And so they want to go in and they want to build Gaza up after all that bombing. And then you also have the issue now that's recently happened with, I even seen a comment where somebody said, oh, I have friends in Nigeria and they didn't bomb Nigeria. Maybe not all of my Nigeria, but I was reading and I heard from somebody that is in Nigeria that the north of Nigeria was bombed. So be careful about some of these people. They don't want you to know what's really going on, and they want you to, like they say, we're sleepwalking into World War III. And so they just don't want you to be smart enough to figure all of these things out. They want you kind of thinking that you know, you could look at all these fluff pieces on the news and religion and and that's going to help you out of your situation, when you know that it is not going to help at all, because you're in the dark about a lot of what's going to probably affect you in your life here in the States if you are a resident of the U.S. So it says, with Donald Trump expanding the travel ban inspired by his first term in the White House to 20 countries, as well as the Palestinian Authority, December 16th, a total of 39 countries from different corners of the world now face either a total ban or restrictions on entering the U.S. So let me add here before I finish this last line here. Also, there's something going on that when you come towards the border, you have to do facial recognition in a photo. And they claim that they want to keep terrorists out. And they also want to keep people out who might be undocumented and overstay their visas. But with this happening right now, what's going to probably happen is if these countries are revoking the visas of Americans, any people that are coming from outside countries, their visas are probably going to end up getting revoked, because that's going to be retaliation. It's a possibility. And then that would shut everybody that's here in the U.S. inside. And nobody can get out and nobody can get in. And that sounds pretty scary. So Mali, South Sudan, Niger, Burkina Faso, Syria, Palestinian Authority have added to the list of the nations whose citizens cannot enter the U.S. at all. First introduced, this was in June. So it says Angola, Antigua, Barbuda, Benin, Dominica, Gabon, Gambia, Ivory Coast, Malawi, Mauritius, Niger, Senegal, Tanzania, Tonga, Zambia, Zimbabwe were meanwhile added to the list of countries facing a block on student and business visas. A list that Trump put in place June 2025 previously introduced or included Burundi, Cuba, Laos, Sierra Leone, Togo, Turkmenistan, and Venezuela, completely and permanently prohibiting the issuance of visas to all the U.S. citizens. So we've already seen this play out in some of the countries, but he's expanded the travel ban. And I feel like with all of this going on, there's something we are not really paying attention to, or we are not knowing that is about to happen. All these travel bans and all this being suspicious about people coming in and out of the border. We already know, we want to stop terrorists, but there's something bigger at play here. So completely and permanently, he's prohibiting the issuance of visas to all U.S. citizens. And so immediately after their nations were added to the ban, multiple diplomats, heads of state responded in condemnation. Antiguan Prime Minister Gaston Brown issued a statement saying that the Caribbean country's government was deeply disappointed, given that the justification accusing it of loose rules for granting citizenship by investment does not reflect the present reality of our laws. And so it says 2 weeks after the expansion of the bans, West African nation of the Niger has taken the most drastic step of permanently banning any granting of new visas to U.S. visas in reciprocal measures until the situation changes. So they are retaliating based on what has already happened with the Trump administration doing the travel ban. So when he did the travel bans, that means he banned their countries already. So they are responding by banning anybody that wants to go to their country. You can't go to their country either. So he's making enemies, and there's a reason for all of this, and a lot of people need to wake up to see what's really going on. And so it says the Niger is completely and permanently prohibiting the issuance of visas to all U.S. citizens and indefinitely banning entry to its territory for nationals of the United States, a governmental representative said in the Associated Press. So a landlocked country bordered by Algeria, Libya, Chad, Nigeria, Benin, Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger is a Muslim majority nation with a population of just over 25 million people. So in the document announcing the travel ban, the White House said the country has a visa overstay rate of 13.41%. So for business visas, 16.46%, and for student ones as well, terrorists and their supporters that are active in planning kidnappings. That's what he's saying. The Niger is a landlocked country bordered by 7 nations. So Shutterstock. Okay, so the African, another African country that was pulled of all visas for Americans earlier this year, while a history of war and political instability and coups d'état means that the travel into Niger and Western countries remains very low. So the State Department kept it at the do not travel advisory level for years. And the latest move from its government is a major escalation in relations. So I believe it says that the story continues, so I'm not sure if the story continues. Let's see. I was clicking on it. I don't think it is. I think this is pretty much the article. I don't think it goes. I think we pretty much know just from the amount that I have covered what this all is about, entails. This is from the street. And so that's just one of the articles that I read, The Street, by way of Yahoo. So the Black Enterprise, they also have their articles talking about the canceling of American visas as well because of the Trump travel bans. These are different news media outlets, but all of them are coming out with similar issues about these passport and travel bans. So a growing diplomatic standoff is unfolding after one country announced it will cancel all visas for Americans in response to Trump's administration expanded U.S. travel ban that included the West African country. So in mid-December, President Donald Trump, he broadened restrictions on travel in the U.S., adding 20 more countries, the Palestinian Authority, to the existing list. So the move that brought total numbers of affected nations to about 39, spanning Africa, the Caribbean, Middle East, and the Pacific. So some countries now face a total travel ban on entry to the U.S. now. So think about it. That's going to affect business. That's going to affect like students that are studying abroad. That's going to affect people that work in different countries. That's going to affect a lot of things. So it goes on, this article, I believe it goes on a little longer. It says that some countries, they face a total travel ban. So that means student and business visas as well. So they want you to know that. And then Niger has responded by, according to the government officials, the country is completely and permanently prohibiting the issuance of visas to all U.S. citizens and indefinitely banning Americans from entering in its territories until further notice. So the Street reported that as well. So we just read the Street. So the statement was confirmed the Associated Press and marks the rare instance of the country imposing a blanket visa ban on U.S. travelers. So U.S. officials pointed to the Niger residents' overstay rates exceeding 13%. Also, it mentions the business visas and more, and 16% for student visas, along with concerns about militant activity in the region. So the Niger's decision follows mounting tensions between Washington and Niamey. Diplomatic relations have deteriorated since the military coup last year and the collapse of a long-standing security partnership. So, I remember, and I don't know if some of you all, if you've been reading a little more deeper into all of these situations, that there was a pulling out of the U.S. from the UN, and also the aid, the U.S. aid. So that also, I believe, has a lot to do with it as well. no support for other countries and whatnot, giving aid to people in certain specific countries. So it says here, earlier this year, the U.S. Embassy in the Niger suspended routine visa processing, signaling a broader breakdown in cooperation. Analysts say visa restrictions have now become a pressure tactic on both sides. Other countries targeted by the expanded U.S. ban have also pushed back. Antigua, Barbuda's Prime Minister Gaston Brown publicly criticized the administration reasoning, calling the allegations about the country's citizenship policy outdated and inaccurate. Several African countries, or African and Caribbean nations, have issued statements condemning the travel restrictions as unfair and damaging to diplomatic ties as well. So the consequences immediate for Americans, those traveling to the Niger, it mentions it here. So this is going to affect a lot of people here in the U.S. If you're a traveler, you do business abroad, or you work abroad, or you go to school abroad, you like to do a lot of travel. I've heard people say, I like to travel a lot. This is going to affect you. Those who wanted to stay out of politics, you might need to get your head into it, because this is how you play a part in this, how it's going to affect you. So the consequences are immediate for Americans. Those traveling to the Niger are humanitarian aid, journalists, business, family reasons now face a major obstacle unless they already hold a valid. So it goes on and talks about it here. Visas or qualify for narrow exemptions. Niger, meanwhile, risks losing economic benefits. So this is going to also dip into the programs, when we see people going to these different countries trying to help them, people who are trying to give back to people who are, really going through some difficult times. This is going to affect a lot of that. So for some reason I can't go any further, but I think the rest of this. If you want to see the rest of this, you can read it at your own leisure, but I just wanted to give you a clue as to what is going on, because this is pretty serious. It is going to affect a lot of people, even those people who thought, I'm going to stop watching the news, I'm going to stay out of politics. No, you're going to be involved in it whether you like to or not. And this administration is forcing people to have to wake up and look at what's going on in some shape, form, or fashion of some sort. And I know we can all get mad at all these entertainers and stuff, but these are just people and they make poor choices. But the bigger pressing issues are these things right here that could affect a lot of us here in the U.S. and in a lot of ways that may not be good. And it may be a signal of war, of a coming war, or a war that we're slipping into. So I just wanted to make that known. So pretty much there's probably a whole bunch of other articles that are coming out about what's going on with these travel bans. So if I were you, I'd probably look more into this, maybe read more about it. And if you're somebody that could possibly be affected by all of this, you might need to now make decisions on what you're going to do from here on out. So if you just look at all the different articles talking about these travel bans, it is real. So you got it from the American Immigration Council, Boundless.com, WhiteHouse.gov, USAWizard.com, New York Times is talking about it, The Street that we just read, and then USA Today is also talking about it. So it is real. So this is not good. I think it's a signal of something to come. And I keep feeling in my gut that we have not seen the worst yet. We think we saw the worst, but we haven't seen the worst yet. And something crazy is going to happen. And with these travel bans and blocking off countries like this and blocking off all of this right here, it doesn't look good to me. So, what are your comments? Drop your comments. Drop your opinions or your comments down below. I mean, I just don't. It doesn't feel safe anymore. That's what I'm saying. Also, I did read an article about that as well. That that since this administration, it has been a turbulent year in 2025, and that Project 2025, a lot of the things that were listed out in there have been actually enacted. They've been performed. So that is the playbook for what they've been doing. And so I don't think people took it serious. A lot of people thought it was a joke. And some of these people voted for this administration, and now you had some people that wish they could take their vote back. Then you had people that had benefits taken away from them. I think it was for anywhere from Section 8 to SNAP benefits. I heard there's new rules for people to get back on it. Some people have lost it forever that needed it. And now you see this. More travel bans. What is going on? You got to ask yourself that question. So I don't think people take things serious. They don't take life serious. And they're looking at the small stuff like entertainers and canceling them and all of that. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't be upset with the things that these people have done, but you should look at the bigger picture as well and see, wait a minute, how is this going to affect us? Because those little entertainers, they're not really that powerful. They got a big platform. They can say a lot and do a lot, and they could probably do some things, but they don't have the power that we see right here wielded, where you could stop people from traveling, you could stop people from doing business, you could stop people from doing trade. I think that's a lot bigger than somebody who you probably don't even really like listening to, or you hear one or two songs and then you realize this person is a hothead, but think about it. This right here is a lot more serious. And on that note, I'm gonna let this go, but I think we are slipping into something really dark and dangerous. That's what it looks like to me.